We have added roles and basically assigned roles to this users, but right now we haven't assigned permission to roles. So right now user can see anything, any link or any page or any button, so we'll have to add the restrictions there. So first we'll have to add permissions into roles. So we'll have to assign permission into roles, same like users we have assigned roles. So I will go to this particular roles and this views where we have already assigned basically roles. So now we need to assign permissions. So I will copy paste the same thing. So it's a similar, just here we have assigned roles to user. We will assign permissions into roles. So I will just make some changes here. So for role, I will have to change it as a permission. So I will just copy this one. I will add into new file, and here I will just replace this role with permission. So everything will be replaced. Then I will copy this one and will paste it here. Okay. So we have this for permissions. Now there is this edit user form. So it will be edit role form. This will be edit role form. So edit role form and this permissions we don't have in our liveware component, so we'll add it here. So this particular edit role form, so public dollar edit role form, and by default it will be false. Also we'll have to get the permissions. So to get permission, I will just create one more function, public mount, sorry, public function mount. So we'll get that all the permissions. Okay, so for getting permissions, one thing is there, we have multiple businesses and every business will have different subscription plan, and in subscription plan they will have the permissions. So if you see in database, there we have this businesses. Okay, and every business will have subscribed to one plan, and every particular plan, basically plan, will have multiple permissions according to their plan. So in permission plans that will be there, so plan id and then permission. So I already added some permissions like this view user, invite user, manage subscription, view roles. So 5678 this id, and I have added this into this particular plan. So permission plan, if you can see, for the first plan I have added this permission. So only for first plan this will work, otherwise it will not work. And this first plan I have basically subscription here for basic plan, first plan only. So this will work for this permissions only. So if particular business has subscribed to that permissions, that permission will be seen, and that permission can be assigned to that particular role. So this has been taken care. So I will just get these permissions here. Okay, so dollar permissions. So this will be this, then permissions, not just permissions, because we'll need to add that particular variable here that can be accessible from the from the view. So permissions. So this will be, first we'll get the business, which business is currently logged in. So business, then find. So we have that business in session, then business id. So we got this business, and then in business we have particular plan subscribed, and in plan we have multiple permissions. Okay, so likewise this permissions will come here. Okay, so first thing, just want to make sure there this relationship or not. So I will go to this models. In business we have this plan belongs to plan, and in plan we have this permissions belongs to many. So that will come here. Okay, so I will just save this. So we have permissions and permissions. Now this edit role form should be turned, means should be changed to this true while we are editing. So dollar edit use role form, this will be true, and I will just add this here. Okay, let's see if this is working. So I go to this roles, so business not found, so we'll have to add this model. So use app slash models slash business. Okay, now if I click edit, so this permissions are shown, so this is working fine. So select permission is there. Okay, so one more thing means if particular business already has that permissions and all these things, so that should get selected. So for that reason I will copy the same thing we have done in users, like this, getting this IDs and saving that IDs into that particular permissions. So I will just copy this, and while editing, so we'll add that. So role we are getting editing true. So first we'll have to get that permissions for that particular thing. So this particular role, so this role we'll have to take, so role already we are getting here, so I will just use it after this one. Okay, so role we have this role, and then permissions, so we are getting permissions for that role, and I will use permission IDs here, and here we'll use selected permissions. Okay, this variable will be needed, so I will just add this one more variable. So this will be selected permissions. Okay, and okay, it will be converted into array. Okay, and then basically I will have to use the same variable. So I think there is some capital and small letter issue. So here selected permission, so I will use this one. So let's see if this working fine or not. So I will just create one role and I will go for edit. So there are no permissions, so we can select this, and after saving we should save these permissions. We have to save these permissions. So in save, after editing or creating, we'll have to sync that permissions. So in users we already use the same function, so I will use this function here. I will copy this one, and I will paste it here. Okay, so then this will be, we are creating this editing, so here we already have this particular role. Okay, so suppose I use the same role. Okay, so save role, and then there is permissions, and then basically syncing all this selected permissions. So variable will be selected permissions. Okay, so if you haven't seen that particular video where we have added, so in edit we are basically adding this, in editing we are adding that particular role, which role has selected for editing, and so we have role that here, and if editing then we are saving updating that role, and if there is no roles means edit, if we are not editing we are creating. So for both case we can use this same variable. So after creating also we can put this into editing, and then basically we can use this editing, then permission, then sync all these selected permissions. Okay, and then edit role form will be then again made false, so this will get hidden. So let's check this one. So I will use manage subscription view roles, and I will save this one. Let's see, there is issue. Okay, permissions. Okay, editing. Call to member function permissions on false. Okay, so there is some issue while editing. I'm not getting that permissions, so I will just use this then editing. Okay, reset input field we are calling for, so that might be the issue. So I will call this at last. Okay, so it might be resetting that particular thing, I think so. So save. So it updated successfully, and if I click again, so this already selected will be selected now. So this is working fine actually. Okay, so if I give a view user and view roles only, so save. So this is working fine. Now we have this edit this particular thing outside, so this we should put this into model only rather than adding it there. Okay, so I will just go here and will remove this from here, and I will also remove these things, and I will just add it in this content. Okay, and then we'll make some changes here. Class width full, and so let's see. So select permission. So this is not just select permission, basically it's manage role. Let's see, manage role, and here we have this particular, so I will just get something from label and all these things. So label, but rather than from a particular form I will take it. Okay, so this label I will just copy, will put it here. So label will be role. Here I will add role name. Okay, and then behind this, means below this, I will just add this for permissions. Okay, permissions. So I can say select permissions. And one class, I will give class empty file. So we have this role name, then select permissions, and this will get updated. Let's see. So this is getting updated. User role, invite user also. So this is working fine. And we also we have removed that particular create thing. So I will add one button here. So X button, and this will be create. I will give this wire click, then create function. So we'll have to create that function. So we have save edit, so I will just create one more function, public function create, and here we'll make this as a true. Okay, let's see. So okay, so in edit it's working fine. When I click create, okay, edit role from will be true, then this wire click, okay, spelling mistake, wire click create. So if I click create, edit is working fine. If I click create, so there is this name pre-filled, so this will work for these things also. Now this are selected. If I make cancel, so same things are selected. So first I will have to reset that fields and all these things. So one thing I can do, I can use this particular reset input fields. Okay, and then in reset input fields, basically permissions also should get reset. So I will go reset input fields, and then for permission also I can use that particular thing. So one liver function we can use, like rather than this then reset, and then basically we will reset these two things. One is name and then permissions. So name, I will put this into array, and one is permissions. So both will get reset. So while creating, so there will be no issue. For each argument, so there is some issue. Okay, permission should not be reset. Reset will be this selected permissions, not permissions. Okay, now we have this selected permission. If I click create, so there is no, and I will just give this. Okay, there is issue, so I will have to add ID or something. So in selected permissions, why this issue is there? So if I go edit, so there is no issue. If I click create, there is the issue. So why is this issue coming? So for selected permissions, I'm resetting this, and this should be reset to array. So let's check this one. So this is working fine. So if I go edit, so there is no issue. If I go create, so there is also no issue. Now I can create a role. So user viewer, we can say, so we can see only view users, or we can say invite user. These two permissions will be given. So now for this user viewer, we have given these two permissions. Okay, and for admin, we have all the permissions. Okay, so right now what user we are logged in this particular, and we have this admin. So now we have assigned the permissions to role. Now we'll have to add this restriction. So suppose, so for example, I will put this restriction on this links. Okay. So I will go to this sidebar. Resources, views, live wire in this sidebar. Okay. I will add this restriction @can. And then this first link is view roles. So let me check what permissions we have. So view roles, view users. So here I will add and can. Okay, then similarly view users, and then this one is manage subscription. Okay, so and can will be needed, and then this invite users, so view roles, users, and all these things we have added. So whatever the permission that particular user have, he can see that links only. So right now admin have everything, so I will just make changes to this admin role, and I will give just this view users permission. So we'll save this. So now I can see only this link, so other links will not be shown. So right now one more thing is there. So he don't have permission to this links, but this will not restrict that user to go onto that particular link. So we have this roles link, so still he can go to that link and they can make the changes. So this is issue, so we'll have to add that permissions here too. Okay, so I will also give this view roles option. So now this roles is visible. So to add that permissions into that component level or something now, so we'll have to add it here. Okay, so for this I will just check syntax on Laravel. Get authorize, something like that. So if gate allows that particular thing, if not, then there should be this about or something like that. So I will just copy this one. I will try to post it here. I will try to add it here, and this gate will need to add it here. So we'll see if this is working fine or not. So gate, if gate allows, so if gate not allows to this view roles, so this page will not be shown. Okay, so right now this is working fine. And if I make something change, means right now we have rules. So if I do this for something else, so this permission will not be given to this particular user, so he can see this 403 forbidden. So if particular user don't have that permission, so he will see that 403 page. So likewise this will work. So for blade templates, we can use @can, and for these things, means controller, livewire component or something, you can use this gate allows or all these things. Okay. So likewise, we can check that permissions are there or not. So I think this is working fine. So we have given this options to create this roles and give this permission. So basically these roles will be dynamic, the permissions will not be dynamic. So we will create most of the permissions for these things. Right now we are just editing links, so I will have to add this everywhere. So suppose I want to add key, there are permissions like view user, so if user have view user, they can see all these things. And then there is one more permissions like edit user, then this edit user button will not be shown. So for this thing I will have to add that particular restrictions there. So if I go to this uh, users, and there is this button for edit, so okay, so I will have to add that particular it can then edit user. So whatever the user, if they have that particular role and that have that permissions to this edit user, then only they can edit that user, otherwise this button will not be shown. So likewise we'll have to add this permissions basically everywhere for these things. And basically business can create their custom roles and give the permissions respectively and create multiple roles and all. And there are option key, we can create these permissions dynamically also, but the complete this creation of tables and all these things, forms, that will also need, that will be also needed as a dynamic, then only we can do that. Otherwise it will be hard coded these permissions, and this permission will be added manually, or we can create the seeder to add multiple permissions into a database. And then basically businesses can assign that permissions, otherwise they will not have options to assign. So we will add multiple separate sections and permissions will add here, will make some changes. So user means according to their requirement they can create different roles and give the permissions. So likewise things will work.